Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of Council. I am Councillor Richard Fleming. As Mayor, I will be chairing this evening's meeting. I would like to welcome fellow councillors and officers and members of the press and public in the gallery and those of you watching on YouTube. Becky, do we have any apologies? In the gallery and those of you watching on YouTube. Becky, do we have any apologies?
Crooks, Bill Crooks, Councillors Lambert and Waite.
Thank you, Becky. They are duly noted. Item number 2, minutes of the previous meetings. We've got 2 sets of minutes to approve. Would somebody like to move the minutes of the meetings held on the 3rd and the 8th of July? Would somebody like to move the minutes of the meetings? Thank you, Councillor Bray.
Yeah, a second note as well, thank you.
Formally move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bray.
Yeah, a second note as well, thank you.
Oops, if you'd like to raise your hands. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Oops, if you'd like to raise your hands. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. The motion is carried and the minutes are approved. Urgent business. I've not received any urgent business, so we move on to item number 4, declarations of interest. Does any councillor present have any declarations of interest of any items on the agenda tonight? Any councillor present have any declarations of interest of any items on the agenda? That doesn't look like it, so we'll move on then to the Mayor's communications. I won't go through all of them because there's quite a bit there. First thing I want to, the big one was on the 2nd of August when my colleague, Deputy Mayor, and her consort, along with the Mayoress and myself, we attended the 2025 Fest, Food Fest, which was actually brilliant. Plenty of food and plenty of drink to have down there. Can I congratulate all those who put this together? For those of you who may have viewed Facebook, also saw me banging the drum next day when it was the launch of the Snapdragon, which was absolutely brilliant, playing around with the kids in the sand pit, etc. Probably just about right for my age. On the 9th of August, the Mayoress and myself, we attended the High Sheriff's Garden Party, along with a further 100 guests. A great event, but pity about the high wind. Next day, we attended the 90th anniversary of Hollycroft Park celebrations. Next day, we attended the 90th anniversary. You could not ask for better weather, although it was only 9 weeks since I had a new hip. They had me doing the hula hoop, which was some success, may I add. I'll move on to the next main one, which is on the 16th of August, where the Mayoress and I attended a special VJ memorial service at the War Memorial in Archers Mead. Again, can I express my thanks to the Deputy Mayor for attending the Barwell Carnival on my behalf, so that Mayoress and I could attend this service. Moving on, I'll go on to the 28th of August, when the Mayoress and I again attended the Bosworth Battlefield Centre to partake in the rose-laying service to commemorate the 540th anniversary of the Battle of Bosworth, and in the afternoon we took part in the official opening of the Bosworth Battlefield Trail, which several people have already put notices on Facebook just about how wonderful it is. I'll pop off down to September the 6th when we attended the LE8 Brass Quintet concert at the Unitarian Church in Hinckley. It was a great evening of music, and it was nice to see so many people there. Next day, we attended the Burbage Common Open Day, where we had great fun judging the dog show. Once again, a big thanks to all those people who put this event together. On the 14th of September, the Mayoress and myself attended the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain service held in Archers Mead, where the Mayoress and I had to give some recollections of our Battle of Britain parades we did when we were both serving in the Royal Air Force. I must give a special mention to 198 Hinckley Squadron Air Cadets, who put the whole show together, and actually they did a fantastic job. I'll move on the 20th of September, when the Mayoress and I attended Leicester Cathedral for a service of dedication and thanksgiving for the new education centre there. And if you all get a chance to go along, please go to the education centre. It's absolutely fantastic. And probably the last thing I really want to mention is on the 21st of September, when both of us attended the BID's 14th annual car show. Wow, as I put on there, it was absolutely fantastic. And I was told There was nearly 600 cars on show there. I think actually there was 598, so I'll forgive them the two short ones. The town centre, believe me, was rammed. Big thank you to the Hinckley bid and the HBBC teams who helped organise the event. And that's it. The rest of the stuff, I'm sure you can read for yourself. And that's it. The rest of the stuff, I'm sure you can read. Now we move on to item 6, Leader of the Council's position statement. Councillor Bray, would you like to present your position statement? Leader of the Council's position statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bray, would you like to present your position statement?
This is the first statement since the summer break, so I do hope all members and officers managed to get away for the summer, for a few days break at least. An awful lot on the agenda tonight, so I won't dwell on all of this, but the first section of the report I do want to focus on in detail, and this is the main purpose of me giving a report today, and this is around community cohesion and misinformation. And I will read it out, this section, so you'll have to excuse me that one. But I am proud to live in a borough where diversity is embraced and inclusion is part of everyday lives. Our communities are made stronger by the people who live in them. People of different backgrounds, experiences, stories who contribute to the richness of our shared spaces. This spirit of welcome and unity is something we should all celebrate and protect. Here in our borough, I want to be clear, misinformation suggesting that local hotels and are housing asylum seekers is false. These claims create unnecessary fear and division at a time when our community needs clarity and trust. Also, claims that the council has a target for housing asylum seekers are also incorrect. Responsibility for this rests with Serco, which is a government-appointed contractor. We also recognise that housing pressures are severe, homelessness is rising, local housing registers are full, and too many families are living in temporary accommodation. Frustration with the broken housing system must not be redirected into hostility towards vulnerable people, nor fuelled by rumours online. Misinformation does nothing to solve homelessness or housing shortages, it only deepens mistrust. Our national flags and local symbols should be sources of pride and belonging for everyone. When misused to stir division, they lose the meaning they ought to carry. Let's continue to stand together as a community that values truth, fairness and inclusion, and that welcomes everyone with dignity and respect. I am also pleased to share some fantastic updates that showcase the energy and spirit of our borough and reflect a community that continues to grow, adapt and support one another. So thank you to everyone who has contributed, participated and helped make these initiatives a success. I mentioned a number of these things through the report. I'm not going to read them all out again, but we've got the Richard III Sculpture Trail, which I know our officer team here in Cultural Services has worked on for a number of years. So many congratulations and thanks to them, and I know a number of members attended that event. Mr Mayor, you mentioned yourself some of the summer events, and our events programme is something I'm very proud of, and long may it continue. I also pick out some highlights of what my executive meeting last week approved, some various things which are good initiatives that we really support, particularly around sort of supporting vulnerable people in warm housing schemes, warm welcome schemes and things like that. Good news on the leisure centre, we're now back at pre-pandemic levels with numbers of visits. I also mentioned the preparation for the Making a Difference Awards, which Councillor Mullany and Sharon and others are involved in. I finally mentioned local government reorganisation, which of course continues to rumble on. I was hoping that with the departure of the former Deputy Prime Minister and her sidekick that things would change, but unfortunately it doesn't appear to be the case. We're being told that it will press on as normal, which much to my regret. Finally, not on the statement, I'd just like to remind all members and officers that tomorrow we are hosting a Macmillan Coffee morning here from 11 o'clock, and I do hope that as many people can either turn up or donate online. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bray. Councillor Allen, do you wish to speak? Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Councillor Allen, do you wish to speak?
By supporting the leader's comments with regards to community cohesion. I'd just like to start off by the various rumours and misinformation that's been appearing online is deeply unhelpful to everybody and has no place really in our community. In terms of the Richard III sculpture, I'm quite looking forward to taking the dogs around the whole 11 miles of the trail. I'm not entirely sure they'll be quite so keen, but suck it up. The summer events, just a big thank you to all the officers and everyone involved in both putting those events on, and to everybody who's actually attended and supported those events. Without that support, we wouldn't be able to put them on. Thank you for the update on the executive meeting, that's appreciated. The Leisure Centre, again, it's good news that our Leisure Centre is so well supported, and long may that continue. After my trip to Scotland and numerous haggis, probably really ought to go and patronise it a bit more myself, Mr Mayor. Obviously, there's the Making the Difference Awards. Again, if anyone knows someone who's gone above and beyond, get a nomination in. Let's recognise everybody out there in our communities who's doing something for somebody else. And finally, the local government's reorganisation. This is going to be the biggest change we've seen in generations. And as far as we can, we need to make sure that we get it right for our residents. That is the best option after just leaving things alone, which I think we'd all agree probably is the best potential outcome. Unfortunately, that looks as if that's not going to be an option. But also, it's deeply concerning the lack of direction and communication and information coming out of Leicestershire County Council. They're supposed to be the body leading this. Their lack of appearance is noteworthy. And I hope everybody pays attention to that when they're thinking about Leicestershire County Council in forthcoming elections. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Bowles.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Thank you. And I'd like to thank the leader and also the Leader of the Opposition for coming together and uniting on division and community tensions, because actually as a united body of councillors, I think it's really important we walk forward and share that message. I want to congratulate Simon Jones and his team of officers for all the work on the Bosworth Trail. It's an incredible experience, actually. And when I attended the launch event and I spoke, it was amazing, the eclectic mix of people that attended that event and what they spoke about, and how enthusiastic they were about the sculpture, about Richard III, about our part of the world. And I think that's what this does more than anything. It puts it on the map. There's huge numbers involved with this. Tourism contributes so much to our local economy, and I didn't realise until you start digging deeper how much it really does in jobs, in overnight stays, and we want to put ourselves not just on a pass-through, we want to make sure people stay here for longer, and this really gives them a reason to, and coupled with the investment in Market Bosworth that we led on. You know, there was a black hole in that project to make that a destination where people want to stay. We filled that hole. Another example of what Hinckley and Bosworth does really well. So Simon Jones and his team worked miracles on that to get that through, and it's an incredible project, alongside all the events that are mentioned as well. And the Leisure Centre, I'll finish on that one. The Leisure Centre isn't standing still. I'm incredibly proud of getting that footfall back to where it was pre-pandemic, and also to see that actual rural users now are increasing. And I think that's really important. It's an asset for Hinckley, but actually Hinckley and Bosworth are tapping into and using it in greater numbers. I was on a meeting last week with the Leisure Centre, and they were investing huge amounts of money potentially in there to make it a best-in-class facility, and that's what makes me incredibly proud. They're not standing still. They're driving forward with change, and to be the best-in-class facility we know they are. So yes, thank you to everyone involved in that project as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. I'll just keep moving from one party to the next. I'll take Councillor O'Shea as the next. Moving from one party to the next. I'll take Councillor O'Shea as the next.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Community cohesion is very important. This council has always worked and strived for good race relations, good community cohesion. And I'm very proud to say that now whatever party is leading this council has always been there for the community, no matter what race, colour or creed that we are. And any division or anybody that says that we're not is wrong. And there is no place for any sort of racism in this council or in this country. And I'm very proud to say that, you know, as a council we've always worked hard and strived to look after all communities. So I just wanted to say that on part of the council. In relation to the county council that was mentioned, you know, we are dragging our feet. Reform are dragging their feet. You know, we looked at it before reform got in, we was moving steadily forward, but it seems to have slowed right down now, and I think both, the party over there and the Conservatives are banging on the drum to get them to move, but it just seems so slow and inept. Going on to the Leisure Centre, I'm very proud of the Leisure Centre in Hinckley. I'm one of the rural users, so I really do appreciate the work that they do, especially in the Fat Club, to try and get my weight down. So basically, I'm all praise for the Leisure Centre. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm all praise
Thank you, Ozzy. Councillor Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ozzy.
I was delighted and an honour to go to the Richard III Sculptural Tale Success launch event, and I must comment on both the Mayor and the Deputy Leader's speeches at that event. I mean, the Deputy Mayor delivered a phenomenal speech. Without a script, the Deputy Mayor delivered a phenomenal speech. It was unbelievable. But the reason why I mention this is because there's actually a launch video to go with it. And that has not only been successful, but it's stunning. And if you're ever convinced that it's worth a look at the trail, then the launch video is inspirational to deliver that. So through you, Mr. Mayor, it's now on YouTube. Can I ask that you share that launch video with members after the meeting, because it's well worth a watch. That's the launch video, not the Deputy Mayor's speech. I don't believe that's on YouTube. But the launch video certainly is. And in respect to the heritage strategy, very, very important to the history of Hinckley and Bosworth and the whole area. The officers there have done a fantastic job on putting together the strategy. I wholeheartedly endorse it. And all the achievements that have come out of it, of course, because it's not just a strategy, it delivers on the protection of those valuable assets that we've got. So just picking up on those 2 points, not covering the other ground that's been mentioned, but the Bosworth was a real success. The video would be useful to be shared, and congratulations to officers on the heritage strategy, because it sits at the heart of all what we do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Just make a correction. I think it was Councillor Bowles who was the leader, a deputy leader who did the speech, rather than my esteemed colleague to my left. Actually, yeah, there were some very good speeches going on there, including mine as well. But Mark's was very, very good, especially most of it was off the cuff, which makes it even more interesting. Right, I'd like to call on Councillor Michael Mullaney. Off the cuff, which makes it even more interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I also share the comments from the leader and other members about community cohesion and the importance of having a safe and welcoming community for everybody who lives in the borough. In terms of the Making a Difference Awards, it's always one of the highlights of the year to see how many local community groups and individuals we have in our borough who do so much good work locally. It's impressive the sheer numbers of volunteers who we do award at that event every year, and so I would encourage anyone who knows anyone or any organisation that's deserving of the award to please put a nomination in so we can acknowledge the work they do as well. We're very fortunate as a borough to have lots of people who volunteer and make our community a much better place. Warm welcomes. I'm delighted that the scheme is expanding and more warm welcomes have been established across the borough. So say a big thank you to the officers who helped organise it and all the volunteers at all the venues across the borough that have made it such a success. Particularly into many of the rural areas. It's good to see many of the villages, as well as the urban areas, do have warm welcomes, and the scheme does help with social isolation and the cost of living, which are important issues affecting so many people at the moment. And on local government reorganisation, obviously there are different views. We have our own view, which is that we want local government to remain local, and I think that means that one authority for the whole of Leicestershire would not be local government, and that's why we, as a compromise, we would obviously like it to stay as it is, but as a compromise we are arguing for the north-south city option, and we also continue to be objecting to any expansion of the city as well. So, on local government organisation, at the very least, I hope that we can reach a solution on local government organisation, at the very least, which is for the three authorities for less solution that is the one that's backed by the boroughs.
Thank you, Councillor Mullaney. Councillor Shepherd-Bowles. Sorry, Councillor Webber-Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. He's the good-looking one. He makes great speeches as well off the cuff, so I've heard. Look, I just felt compelled to say something on the leader's comments on community cohesion and misinformation. I'm a great advocate in free speech, but I'm not a great advocate when free speech turns into lies. And those lies turn into racism, and that turns into anger and to aggression. We shouldn't allow people to use words and social media and other platforms to divide us. And I welcome the fact that everybody in this chamber has come together supporting what the leader has written in his statement. Because, to be quite frank, I find it dastardly that people would take the great borough that we live in, the values that we live by, and try to twist them to their own ends. So I commend what's written in the statement, and while we should allow people to speak freely, they should speak honestly, and they should speak truthfully for all the residents of this borough.
Thank you, Councillor Webber-Jones. I had the misfortune to actually be in London on the day they had the big, huge demonstration down there. There was about 125,000 people turned up, and it was shameful to call yourself British to hear what people were saying down there, anti-racist comments and everything, especially when we were waiting to get the train back from Euston. And it was quite frightening to see how that could manifest itself even further than have massive demonstrations. It's very, very frightening how somebody so quickly can pull together 115, 120,000 people at very short notice. It was quite frightening. And I was talking to people on the train who were nothing to do with the demonstration but got caught up in it, and they said it was absolutely frightening to be amongst these people who were making all these chantings and what have you. But thank you all for your contribution. Oh, sorry, it's gone. Item 7.
Do you want to get a right to reply?
Oh, please do. No, we'll get this over and done with quick.
I won't do that. I just want to thank everybody for their comments. Just to say that Councillor Allen said about local government reorganisation getting it right. And as Councillor Mullaney said, we believe the right solution. Well, we believe the right solution is leaving it as it is, frankly. But failing that, the government will not drop it, as I hope they will. The North City South option with no city expansion is very much, in my view, and the view of all districts and Rutland cross-party, that is the best option. And I do also just like to put on record that I welcome the support of Peter Bedford MP, who's come round to that position as well. So thank you very much for all the comments, and I'm really, really proud that we can all stand together making this statement about community cohesion and misinformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Not letting you sit down for very long, because we move on to item 7 now, which is the summary of achievements to the corporate plan 2024-2025. Councillor Bray, would you like to present your report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bray, would you like to present your report?
I'm delighted to present the summary of achievements for 2024-25 against our corporate plan priorities. In the year that we had our corporate peer challenge, which highlighted many areas of excellent performance, initiatives and outcome for our residents, it's particularly pleasing to see the variety of achievements against our main corporate plan priorities of people, place and prosperity. There are too many to go through individually, but I'm sure you'll join me in thanking officers and members for the excellent work that takes place for the benefit of our residents, businesses and visitors to the borough. The summary provides a good reminder of all that we achieve as a Borough Council as we move forward into local government reorganisation. Members are asked to note the progress and achievements made by services during 24-25. Members are asked to note the progress and achievements made by services during 24-25.
Do we have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Bowles.
Yeah, thank you.
We will now debate the report. Does any member want to speak up? We will now debate the report. Does any member want to speak up?
Keep my comments brief.
Councillor Allen.
Welcome the report. Thanks to everybody who's been involved in delivering that, everything within the report. It just goes to show how much great work and benefit this council and councils like it deliver for their residents and benefit hearts back to what we've just been talking about. Councils like it deliver for their residents.
Thank you. Councillor Allen. Councillor Bowles, did you want to...
Just to, again, congratulate officers for all the hard work. I'm just flicking through it again, and you remind me of the amazing achievements. Too often as councils hit with a big stick saying we don't do enough. If we can consolidate this down to a couple of paragraphs, get it to every single address in the borough, I think it's a great advert for what we do as a council. So, yeah, well done. Congratulations. I think it's a great advert.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. Anybody else would like to speak? Thank you. Councillor Mullaney. Anybody else?
Yes, just to say thank you to all the officers and everyone involved in delivering the things in this report. It is impressive, the amount of things that have been delivered, and there's a number of things in my own areas of housing and community safety and voluntary sector which are significant. I do notice on page 28 it does refer to the fact of our successful events programme that they brought in over 100,000 additional visitors effectively by having those events, and I think it shows how well attended they are by local residents who clearly welcome those events and enjoy them, and also the benefit to the town centre shops that benefit from the additional people visiting for those events. And it's exactly the kinds of things which are, many of them, discretionary services which may not survive local government reorganisation, when we may end up largely moving over to, because of the finances, over to the only having compulsory services being delivered. So I think it is important just to note the amount of discretionary work that does go on, and the fact that local government reorganisation put a lot of these discretionary work that does go on, and the fact that...
Thank you, Councillor Mullaney. Anybody else would like to speak? If not, I'll ask Councillor Bray, would you like to make any final comments?
Well, Mr Mayor, just to thank members for their comments. I think, as we've said, well, Mr Mayor, the exercise we went through last December with the peer challenge, you know, we set out in our self-assessment all the work that we do around economy and community, and it was just, it was really, it felt really good to listen to what our partners and what our community and other people said back about us as a council. So really proud of that, really proud of this piece of work. And I agree with Councillor Bowles. I think we probably should make sure that this sort of stuff goes through every single door. Perhaps we might use the council tax mailing that we do each year, perhaps for that. Instead of just having a leaflet in it from Rupert Matthews, let's celebrate some of our work as well in that particular mailing. So more than happy to do that. Thank you very much to all members for their comments and move the report. So more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. The motion to approve this report then has been moved by Councillor Bray and seconded by Councillor Bowles. Could all those in favour of acceptance of the report please raise your hands now? And that is unanimous as far as I can see. Thank you very much. That is unanimous as far as I can see. I'm pleased to say the motion is carried. I'm pleased to say the motion is carried. Right, item number 8, financial outturn for 2024-2025. Councillor Lynch, would you like to come and present your report? Councillor Lynch, would you like to come and present your report?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I present the report on the financial outturn for the year 24-25. The report is an update of the information given as part of the 25-26 budget approved in February last, and just gives an update to the year-end of actual figures. Overall, the performance has delivered a general fund surplus of 633,000 compared with the forecast of 751,000, which is a reasonable year's performance, particularly in times of economic uncertainty. But members need to bear in mind that it's only possible to use reserves once, and we used £1.1 million of reserves to support the general fund position this year. The general fund summary is given on pages 38 and 40. The overall summary in table 1 with details of any under or overspend in Table 4, with carry forward amounts generalised in Table 5. Complicated, isn't it? The detailed appendices to give you all of the information on these are 1 to 3 on pages 48 to 57, which I'm sure you've all read in detail. The housing revenue account shows a surplus of 365,000 against 76,000 budgeted. The drivers for this were an increase in interest received of £394,000 and utility savings of £72,000, but with some pressures from the housing repair budget of £130,000. The housing repair budget itself shows an underspend of just £9,000. The capital programme for the general fund shows a spend of 3.657 million against a budget of 8.084 million, an underspend of 4.227 million. The significant contribution being food waste programme and IT improvements of £1,600,000 respectively. Further details of the carry forward for the capital programme can be seen in Appendix 6 on pages 56 and 57. The HRA capital programme of £12.823 million has been underspent by £4.964 million, with the rebuilding of Pegs Close being the main contributor to the slippage, and £4 million of this will need to be reprofiled for that project. Members will note the request for additional budgets on page, I beg your pardon, item 3.6 on page 41, related to the mitigation of the local land charge register. This has no effect whatever on the general fund, and it's only there as for accounting reasons. The reserves, both earmarked and general fund balances, are given on tables 6, 7 and 8 on pages 41 and 42, and are 6.44 million and 1.91 million pounds respectively. The general fund balance represents a reserve of 12.85%, which, although it's below the target of 15%, is acceptable. As I said earlier, we can only use reserves once. We are anticipating a 3-year settlement in December, but this government seems no more ready to give positive support in terms of a reasonable central government grant than the former government, and the settlement is unlikely to be financially positive. While we can be reasonably confident of the position of the 26-27, it will be necessary to maintain constraints on spending wherever possible and to look positively for savings or additional income for the budget for 27-28 if actually needed. Mr Mayor, I'm sure the whole Council will join me in thanking the Finance Department for their continued efforts on our behalf, and I formally move the report and recommendations they're contained therein, and I will take any questions which Ashley will answer for.
Thank you very much for presenting that report, Councillor Lynn. Councillor Bray. Thank you very much, Councillor Bray. Now we will debate the event. Thank you very much, Councillor Allen. Did you like to speak?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
The event. Councillor Allen, did you like to speak?
I'd just like to thank the officers for the report. It was pretty positive. And just like to look forward to the redevelopment of the Payton Close flats coming forward, particularly as that was recently subject of speculation that it was going to house illegal asylum seekers. So the sooner that project reaches fruition, the better. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Anybody else like to speak? Thank you, Councillor Allen. Anybody else like to speak?
Yeah, sorry, just a query on the data. Table 3 seems to see a 443,000 net overspend, but Table 4 a 443 net underspend. Is Table 4 the wrong way round? Have they got overspend, underspend mixed up, or am I reading the data? Is Table 4 the wrong way round? Have they got overspend, underspend mixed up, or am I reading the data incorrectly?
James, I'll wait and see if there are any more questions. In fact, it is a matter of the carry forward. Ashley will explain it in better terms.
There's an underspend, but then when you adjust for the carry forwards, you end up with the overspend. So that's what that table's trying to tell you, that before the carry forwards, we would be in an underspend position. Then because we carry the amounts forward for the following year, it puts the budget then into a net overspend position, because we've had to reprofile the budgets and move it to the following year. So there's like before carry forwards and after carry forwards is the different figures that you're looking at. So there's like before carry forwards and after carry forwards.
Maybe it's just me, but just table 4. For instance, additional income from business rates, pooled retention, is actually listed as an overspend in table 4. From business rates, pooled retention, is actually listed as an overspend.
Yeah, so, sorry, yeah, table 4, the heading at the top, the bracket round over shouldn't be, it's the other way around. I think it's the heading that's confusing, sorry. Yeah. Bracket round over shouldn't be, it's the other way.
If it's any consolation, James, you're asked exactly the same question. If it's any consolation, yesterday, so you're asked exactly. It is difficult to follow. I asked yesterday.
Yeah, when it comes to Borough Council finance, it's clear as mud, isn't it? Yeah, when it comes to Borough Council finance, it's anybody else would like to speak? If not, Councillor Lynch, would you like to make any final comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very few. Thank you, Richard, and thank you, James, for your questions. We are doing as well as we could possibly do, given the parsimonious attitude of various governments. So I don't apologise for that, except Richard and I'll not here, but I'm sure you are also in sympathy with those comments. It's not meant to be political, it's a general one. I think that how we manage to stay afloat and present the sort of service that we present with the extreme limitations placed on us is amazing, and it's a great compliment to our financial team. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I formally move the
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Councillor Bray, I understand yours.
Councillor Lynch said enough for both of us.
Thank you. I understand yours.
Councillor Lynch said enough for both of us.
Would any other member like to speak on this? Right, it's been formally moved by Councillor Lynch to approve the report and seconded by Councillor Bray. Will those all in favour please raise your hand now to accept the report? And that is carried unanimously now to accept the report. And that is carried unanimously. Right, we move on to the final item on the agenda tonight, the Local Plan 2024 to 2045, Regulation 18 draft Local Plan. Councillor Bray, would you like to present the report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am moving this with Councillor Crooks being away. He doesn't know how to pick his holidays. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am moving this. Before I go into my introduction, I just want to put on record at the start my sincere thanks. I'm sure the whole council's sincere thanks to Chris, Kirsty and the rest of the planning policy team. This is a tremendous amount of work putting this document together. So I just want to say how grateful and thank you very much for that. So this report seeks approval from Council for us to approve the Local Plan Regulation 18 document for public consultation. The Regulation 18 plan will be subject to public consultation for 6 weeks through October and November. The 6-week period will include public access to a suite of online evidence documents and guidance on how to respond to the consultation, and will include a number of staffed in-person consultation events across the borough. This Regulation 18 local plan builds on previous versions of the local plan that have been consulted on, the most recent of which was in summer 2024, with the previous Regulation 18 plan. Following that consultation, that version of the plan was not taken forward at the time, with the main reason being that the nationally set housing numbers then changed with a new National Planning Policy Framework and new government set housing targets published in December 2024. Moving forward, we had to readjust just from 12 months ago to take into account the new NPPF and the new housing targets, a 50% uplift to our baseline figure from summer 2024. This also resulted in a change in the planned period, changing from 2041 as the previous end date to now 2045. In order to meet our housing targets 2020-2045, the Regulation 18 plan sets out a number of strategic site allocations across the borough, both housing and employment, including a new settlement at Norton Heath, and these build on previous member briefing sessions and briefings to the member working group. Further detailed policies and further smaller site allocations will then come forward at the next stage. Not all Regulation 18 plans include draft site allocations at this stage. However, given the timescales we are working to, together with the inclusion of a draft strategic allocation in the Regulation 18 plan of last summer, it is considered to be best practice to include further draft allocations, and this allows for members of the public, statutory consultees and agents and applicants to have their say through the consultation process. Progressing the new local plan is necessary for the borough to ensure that development is planned through to 2045 through suitable site allocations. Progressing the local plan through the stages will then add greater weight in decision making, allowing the council to defend its policies and allocations from unplanned and speculative developments. This stage of the local plan is the second stage following on from the Regulation 18 last summer on a very tight timescale to progress the local plan in accordance with the government set deadline for submission to the Secretary of State by December 2026. Following this Regulation 18 stage, a more detailed Regulation 19 will follow for public consultation in the spring next year, with then submission by December 2026 and an examination expected in spring 2027 prior to adoption. This timescale is nationally set, with a number of neighbouring Leicestershire councils all working to the same deadline. These nationally set timescales are linked to the current Labour government's drive to build 1.5 million homes within this Parliament and also influence the 50% uplift in our housing target for the borough. Whilst challenging and often difficult to accept locally, there is also a real threat of government intervention should the council not proceed with a local plan. With this seen recently at Stockport, and has the potential to remove the local element from public local plan consultation and democratic processes in progressing a new local plan. So to move forward to the next step, I therefore propose that we approve the Regulation 18 local plan. So to move forward to the next step, I therefore propose that we approve the Regulation 18.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Councillor Bowles.
I'll second the motion and reserve my remarks.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Councillor Bowles.
I'll second
Councillor Allen.
and reserve my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can I just start by
Councillor Allen.
thanks to the officers who put in an enormous amount of work into our plan over an extended period of time. We all know that we need a plan for our borough to protect our green spaces. And I'm happy to support the process to give the residents the opportunity to view and comment on the draft plan and the contents thereof. Equally, we're all aware of the pressure for housing, especially in the face of the unprecedented numbers announced by the new Labour government. Therefore, there are no easy options, so there will be challenges ahead and difficult decisions to be made. That said, we should note that tonight all we're approving is for the public to have their say on it, not necessarily the specific sites themselves. I look forward to seeing the full details on how our residents can have their say and view the plans in due course. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Scott Gibbons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Scott Gibbons.
There's been a lot about planning committees recently, people objecting to housing schemes that have come through because we haven't got a local plan. I think it's important to say that a lot of these schemes that we're objecting to are in the Regulation 18 anyway. These are sites that are already in the local plan, proposed local plan. And in many cases, there's nowhere else for these houses to go. We're being put under massive pressure. We've seen it meeting after meeting in planning. These houses have to be built. We have no option. We've seen it. Government guidance says you have to build these houses. You have to go somewhere. Many of these sites, I think many of us think are not very suitable. But when there is no option, there is no other land, what do we do? So although I support this local plan, it's with reservations that are being really demanded all these extra houses on this area in the short time short time period. And to be honest, who's going to build all these houses in the 4 years Labour demand? There's no suddenly builders springing out of the ground to build them all. So I think it's a really ill thought out plan by the Labour government that unfortunately we have to put in place, not them. A really ill thought out plan by the
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Boothby.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question on clarity from Chris, if I may. If I refer to page 119, 7.25. So we've got the policy and EW 03, the housing development sites, which is strategic sites, non-strategic major development sites, and the small development sites. This, I think, will go a long way to providing what we need for 20 years. I think will go a long way. 16,000 still to come. But I note with interest, and I just want some clarification on the boroughs. But I note with interest was never intended to go on the local plan. We had an agreement with this administration and former Councillor Bill, and then all of a sudden it got put back in. So that's not actually listed. Can we assume then, even though there's a live application, that is going to be taken out of the local plan during this consultation period and not to be put back in? Thank you very much. And not to be put back in.
Thank you, Councillor Boothby. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm more concerned with what's not in this local plan than what is in the local plan. And the speed it's going on. Most settlements in this borough have trouble with traffic, roads, lack of facilities like pubs, village halls, and facilities like that. It's not mentioned anywhere in it whether there'll be roads, whether there'll be village halls. If we go ahead with large new village, all the existing villages won't have the money to expand and get these facilities available. All the existing villages. The other thing is, it says here we'll promote solar farms. You've just said there we've got to find land for houses. There's no need for solar farms to be on the ground. Every factory in this country should have solar roofs. That would be a priority. Factories, industrial use electric all day anyway. My nephew is a plumber, and he's got solar panels on his house. He runs his house and 2 cars on his own system. That's what we should be aiming for. It's no use just taking land. There isn't the land there, because if you take out grade 1 land, as the Norton Junction Road is, you're also on about diversity net gain land for building. That's another chunk going. It's physically impossible. You can't create more land. And it totally forgets whether we need to produce food, because that's right on the back burner at the moment. I just can't believe as we can go this far down the road and not mention the problems associated with every settlement this far down the road and not mention the problems associated.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton.
I think it's important to stress, particularly to people watching, that we have very little room for manoeuvre here. We are required by central government to allocate certain amounts of land, particularly for housing and for other forms of development. And frankly, there's just not the land there. We have very little choice about what we do. If we don't put some kind of local plan through, effectively, developments might be uncontrolled or forced upon us. So it is essential that we have a local plan. I have some concerns, though, about this. It is essential that there are trivial things I'm concerned about. Just the policy on fish and chip shops, for example. I think that telling, essentially, SP11 Revo 2, telling people essentially if they're overweight that they can't have chip shops nearby, I think seems to be very grandmotherly and paternalistic, and not something we should do. Personally, I believe in personal and parental responsibility and free choice. And I know the leader of the council certainly likes his fish and chips and his kebabs from my experience, but that's another story. Anyway, but more seriously, I think that there are some concerns. Certainly, I think the issue about solar farms and the loss of good quality farmland is a real concern across the borough, particularly with new settlements being developed. I'm concerned about the A44 corridor, what impact that will actually have, the developments on that corridor, onto both, of course, the A5 and other roads around Hinckley in particular. They're clearly not going to be good. There needs to be solid proposals put in place, a solid transport plan to deal with this. If we do have to go down that road of having these new developments. I'm concerned about the Hinckley Western Link Road coming out on Outlands and Roston Drive. I'm concerned about the Hinckley Western Outlands and Roston Drive essentially onto the main road into Hinckley. Now, no one's asked the people of Hollycraft, no one's asked the people in my ward about what they want that. So I'm very concerned about that particular proposal in particular. I think we need to have a really good look at that and a serious conversation with the County Council and others about that. The other issue here as well is that all these new developments seem to be based upon the other issue here as well is that the developments stuck out in really quite peripheral areas with no public transport links. I mean, at least if we're going to have developments in the north side of our borough, particularly around places like Bagworth, at least let's campaign to get the Ivanhoe Railway finally open. We've been campaigning since the 1990s for this. Let's please try and put some public transport in there. Let's put some pressure on agencies to get that moving. I am concerned that we claim to be a green council, but many of these developments really require people to use their private car. There will be no public transport option. So, again, that can't be a good plan. I know we're restricted. I know we're in a really tough position about where we place settlement development, but that seems to me very unfortunate, to say the least. I also wanted to say something about the underlying policy of 1.5 million houses being built over 4 years. Now, frankly, I don't think we've got the craftsmen and the skills in the country to do that, even if we wanted to. I'm doubtful if there's really the market for that. But even if that is the case, I think we also have to think about the impact these policies may have on issues like community cohesion. Because, frankly, there is a relationship between this demand to build lots of houses and mass migration. If you're getting 600,000 to 1 million people in the year coming net every year, that has a serious impact on housing demand. Everyone realises this, but no one really wants to talk about it. So I really caution government about this, about the way we're going, imposing targets on local authorities, demanding very large amounts of houses that are built, changing communities, building on green fields that we've grown up with. Frankly, for not the indigenous population. It's not the indigenous population that's driving this demand. We are barely reproducing, frankly, as a country. This is a housing demand largely driven by migration. And frankly, extremists will exploit that if we don't address the underlying problem as a nation. So I welcome the work that's been done. I think there's been some fantastic work done by the planning team, by Councillor Crooks, by Councillor Bray. But I am worried about the way we're going with this very large-scale development plans, which are going to change our communities. I do not think many of them are going with this very large-scale development plans, which are going to change.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor O'Shea. Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo what members have said tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The problem that we have is the government needs this housing targets that we've dropped on us. But they're not giving us any money for infrastructure. The biggest problem we've got is infrastructure. And it don't matter whether you're out in Hinckley or in Ratby or wherever you are, the amount of houses that we're having to and being dictated to is having an impact on the road system. And it's not the county council that's not supporting. They haven't got the money to do it. It's all right driving houses to communities across the country, but they've got to drive infrastructure. The government, if they want this, they've got to put money in for infrastructure. And that's what concerns me. In my particular village, and it's going to be the same for all of you, but in my particular village in the morning, you're struggling to get out. You can't get down to Chevrolet Way. You can't get out each way because we're a small village. The main street was horse and carts. That's what the size of it was. But it's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault here. It's governments that are doing this. They're driving houses, but they're not giving the infrastructure. And that's what we really need to press. I feel for the planning team because they're under the pressure to actually put these houses forward without any money whatsoever to support that with the road network system. So, I'm happy for this to go out to consultation, providing, it's a general consultation with residents, and the residents, when they feedback, they're listened to. But I appreciate, we've got to build, but let's make sure we build in the right areas. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We've got to build. Thank you, Councillor O'Shea.
Let's make sure we build in the right areas. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Shea. Councillor Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I agree entirely with what Ozzy just said. Infrastructure is something that should be leading this situation, not dragging along behind it. This is a consultation document, so fine, we've got to a point where we can submit it for consultation. That doesn't mean we can't all see the weaknesses of consultation. I mean, a simple one referring to infrastructure is the proposal to put 1,600 hectares of industrial buildings adjacent to the A5, a single lane carriageway. I mean, if they were going to do that and dual the A5 for 20 miles, you could perhaps say, well, maybe. But coming back to the fraught matter of housing, I don't know where the 1.5 million number came from. It seems to be a magic number that somebody has had a dream about. The biggest housing boom this country has ever seen was in the post-war period in the 50s. And the biggest number of houses ever built in 1 year was 318,000. That is just about 1.5 million in 5 years. That is just about. And believe me, they ain't building at that rate now. Just about. And then looking at the question of the actual practicality of it, this has already been mentioned. There are not the resources in terms of materials and manpower to achieve it. It just doesn't exist. And no doubt it can be increased gradually over the years, but not that quickly. You're not going to get an uplift of 75% more carpenters in the next couple of 3 years. It's just not going to happen. So this is, frankly, we are suffering from nonsense. And how many of our approved housing estates are simply standing there empty? I mean, going down one of my own roads in Burbage, there's a small estate there that has been standing empty for 5 years. That's just one of dozens of small estates, let alone approved land for bigger estates that are standing with nothing happening. And nothing is happening because people are not buying them. We're at the moment in a difficult situation. And the builders are not going to build them. This is not Ireland or Spain where they go and build 50,000 houses and can't sell them. The British developers won't do that. Either they're selling or they don't get built. And it is not our fault or our responsibility that they don't get built. It's a financial responsibility. And coming on to the question of houses for social housing, the lack of registered landlords and the lack of housing associations, I beg your pardon, the lack of finance to registered landlords and housing associations is the biggest inhibition to building social housing there is, and that is the government's responsibility. And yet they're trying to shelve it all onto us, which is a total damn nonsense. And so it will go on until actually they suddenly realise it can't be done. And then, of course, our friends over there in Reform, and I guess us as well, will all be shouting, you failed. Well, of course they failed. They were more or less designed to fail ever since they came out with this rather silly idea of 1.5 million new houses. I don't know, Mr. Mayor. Quite frankly, the other thing that has shocked me is, and I only just really woke up to during the last county council elections, by going house to house and house. In my own ward, I am utterly amazed at the number of houses that have one occupant. And it doesn't matter whether it's the little terraced houses in some parts of my ward, or the big 4 and 5 bedroom ones in Burbank. One person, maybe 2 people in a big house. That is, quite frankly, it's just not sustainable. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Councillor Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to support Councillor Sutton in his presentation there regarding businesses and solar panels on business roofs. A lot of businesses do not realise, certainly haven't taken the advantage of solar as an all-time low in terms of infrastructure costs to place it on the buildings, and yet the returns, particularly for the business itself, can be astronomical. And the use of business buildings in order to generate their own electricity from solar panels will be very much welcome. The best news to come out of this, once it's actually adopted, is the extended date time of 2045, which gives some certainty for a bit longer into the future than it does now, than it would have done had this have gone through in its original form. I'm not going to go over that ground because it's been painful for members and officers and continues to be painful for members and officers. And a number of us in the chamber tonight were here last time around when we were trying to do all the allocation for the core strategy and the current plan. I don't know whether I'll be here, Mr Mayor, in any form in 2045, but if I am, or whoever fills my shoes, I don't envy them finding a single site. As difficult as it is now, can you imagine having to do the same exercise with probably even more in 2045? So I'll not cover what the other people have said, but I wholeheartedly support what Councillor Sutton says in relation to businesses and taking that advantage of solar panels, which could be a huge benefit to them. I know there's an infrastructure cost to the business. It's no point renting the roof, but you know, if they can see beyond that and take that financial hit, it will pay dividends in a much shorter time period than ever it would have done in the past. And thankfully, at some point, despite all the difficulties, we might get across the line with a plan that lasts to 2045 and breathe a bit of sigh of relief, whilst it's not going to be too long before the end after to start looking at the next plan. Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's not going to be too long before the end.
Councillor Cartwright. Councillor Linda Hodgkins, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cartwright. Councillor
Well, I'm one of those who live in a big house. It's just me and my husband, and we are going to downsize. So it's the estate agents came around today, had a look. We have got solar panels on the garage roof. Thank God you haven't got them on your roof, she said, because mortgage people don't like it. If somebody wants to get a mortgage on a house with solar panels on the roof, it's very difficult. They don't want it. So that is a no-no in that sort of respect. So we've been out looking at houses down the A47. No wonder they're not selling. We went in one of these nuclear houses and I said, oh, this looks nice and neat. Yes, she said. I said, is this a utility room? No. She said, you can either have a dishwasher or a dryer. You can't have both. You're not allowed both because we don't build them for both. I said, is there a garage? No garages. We used to complain about the same size of garages on planning, didn't we? You could get your car in, but you couldn't get out. You don't even bother with that now. You're just not getting a garage. There's not even a shed. My husband went into his garden. He said, if I put a shed here and wanted a barbecue, I'd have to take the shed down to do the barbecue, then put it back up when we finished. These are not going to sell. They are so tiny. It is unbelievable. You might as well just move into a flat. In fact, why don't we build some flats, you know, if it's only just 3 stories? I don't know. But this is where people of single people would move to. And this is why they're staying in their homes, because there isn't anywhere like that around here, is there, for them to go to? Yeah, so talking about downsizing, I am looking, I'm in hope, and I'm trying to find somewhere with some good infrastructure and somewhere I can drive out of and get onto the road, not like Councillor O'Shea. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I am actually. It's doing my head in this. Yes, I am actually.
You must have been reading my mind, Councillor Webber Jones. Has anybody got any? And may I offer you the best of luck? Councillor Webber Jones. May I offer you Councillor Bowles, as the seconder, would you like to come back at all?
Councillor Cope, I didn't want to speak.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand there. Councillor Cope. Been very quiet there. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand there. Councillor Cope. Been very quiet there.
It's funny, really, because I've sat here listening to everything that's going on, and I've looked at another local plan, and over the last 30 years, I suppose I've looked at quite a few, and I found some papers out the other night, dated 1952 to 53, discussing the A5 and the problems with the A5. I thought, wow, You know, I was about 5 at the time, so you know I don't remember a great deal about it. But I remember my old man, who was in the ambulance service, going on about it, about the access. But I then looked at the local plan for 1988, which was just before we moved on to the Hollycroft estate. And I remember the farmland before the northern perimeter went in, and the Shepherd family, who I've sold great chunks of theirs, and I know that Richard's looking to dispose of the rest. Mr Adcock and his family, that's the new Richborough section. And when the northern perimeter was constructed back in 89-90, it was undersized then. And when I look, because I live on Outlands Drive, James just mentioned it, and when I look at the rat running that comes through Wycombe Village, and when I look it goes on to Roston Drive, why are the farmers selling up Roston Drive? I'll leave that question with you. I know what it is. I bet Brian could tell us as well. I'll leave that question. But at the end of the day, yeah, we look at these local plans, but I despair because we've been talking about the infrastructure. But I despair. We haven't got it. We've been talking about the infrastructure. You know, we look at this, and there's a great deal of planning going into it, and I know that Chris's team, we look at this, they must shed drops of blood trying to get it to work. My God, they must. But, you know, I look back on these local plans. We work very hard on these, all of us. Local plans. But then we sit in a situation like we are now, where this house has got to go in. But then we sit in a situation like... And I look at those old fields. Funnily enough, a chap stopped me on Wycombe Park just before they built Hollycroft Grange and asked me what I was doing, because I was taking photographs of the fields. He said, well, you're just taking photographs of the fields. I said, well, a mate of mine who lives on Corrigan Way, his father took all the photographs prior to the Northern Peak being built. And I've taken the subsequent ones as the Hollycroft estate has expanded and grown, so that we've got a history of that area. Expanded and grown. But I look at the schools. There's 5 schools in that patch in Trinity. But I look at the you go round there, try and get round Wycombe Road onto the Northern Peak at school time. Go round there. And I'm not suggesting it's any different in my patch than it is in anybody else's patch. And I'm not suggesting but why? Because the Batlin Brook School, which I live opposite, was a couple hundred kids when I first moved there 30 years ago, which was quite reasonable. 600 now, or thereabouts. We just do not plan in the effects that will have on the locality when we're looking at it. The effects that I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cope. Councillor Shepherd-Bowles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank everyone actually in the room for contributing, because this type of debate is really important. This is strategically important, not just for this council. As we've heard tonight, this council will not be in existence much longer. This has huge implications for the future, and this is our legacy. I said this to Chris a few months ago now. I truly believe this local plan will be a legacy we pass on to the next council, whatever that looks like, because as Councillor Richard Helen said earlier, if it is going to be a mega council or a reform, I dread to think what it looks like, because they are not capable of carrying through any sort of strategic plan and shaping our future. I first got elected in 2019, and in 2019, I was going to say I had more hair, but that's definitely not true. The housing target was 457 houses for this borough, which was a stretch. And we struggled and scratched our head, how are we going to get to that number? And then suddenly, we had a bombshell just before Christmas last year that it jumped up to 689. That's 250 houses extra every single year. And we've heard from different contributors this evening, where are we meant to put them? Logistically, is it on green fields? Is it making villages like New Bolverden or Desford that we represent twice the size, because that's the reality? Is it more congestion in Groby, like we've heard as well? And that seems to be the only choices we're faced with, because of this ridiculous housing target. And in 2019, it wasn't Angela Rayner and her 1.5 million, it was Boris and his build. That's what we started with, that set the tone. And it was compounded. I saw them stupid red hats the other day with build, baby, build. It gets worse. So this compounding of housing numbers and building just gets bigger and bigger. And you're right, every single member who spoke about infrastructure, whether it be transport, whether it be schools, whether it be pubs or village halls. it can't be considered because they can't be built at the same rate as they want to build their houses. There isn't time to put proper strategy in place. And this is an attempt, and I'm going to thank the officers from the bottom of my heart, because this is the third iteration of this plan since I've been elected. The third. And every time we get to the point where we can actually put a plan before the people of Hinckley and Bosworth, the numbers go up. We face resistance from a county council who aren't just dragging their feet with us. You only have to look at Charnwood and what they face. Charnwood have to put a sill in place, which is unheard of. They don't know how it's going to work. I was reading about it today just to refresh my memory. So there are obstacles to getting these plans in place, yet we are for the third time trying to put something constructive in front of people. And no, it's not perfect. I'm not going to lie and say it's perfect. But it is something that we can go to referendum on, something we can put to people and go, this is the best possible option we have before us, and no, it's not perfect. I was impressed that Councillor Cope found another local plan, because again, in my figures I looked at today, only a third of local councils actually have one at present. This is the reality. They're impossible to get over the line. And actually, there was a report just before Christmas by Savills, the estate agent, that said it isn't a third even now, it's 22%, because that number keeps coming down, because they lapse and they go out of their time range. I am reluctantly looking at this selfishly at my own area, and I see fields being developed that I want to be able to walk in with my children. And they're going to be built on, because that's the reality where we're facing. But I do want to thank officers, because they did proactively reach out to my parish council in New Bolverden, to Desford, and they listened to their concerns, listened to the plans they've got in place, and actively tried to include them in this. And again, it's that sort of extra work our officers are doing to make this at least a little bit more palatable. I will stop talking, because I know people won't want to go and watch the football now, but I am so grateful for the work the officers continue to do on this. This started back in 2019 when I first got elected, and 3 times we've got to this point. I hope every single member can support this, because this is a work of labour, of passion and blood, sweat and tears. And if it isn't this plan, it will be a reforms plan, which will mean even more fields are destroyed, even less schools are built, because they haven't got a clue about what their need is, less health, less infrastructure if it's left to reform. So we make the choice for Hinckley and Bosworth, because we know what our residents want. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles, for your words there. Councillor Bray, would you like to make any final comments? Councillor Bowles, for your
yes,
words
Mr.
there.
Mayor. I'm not going to go
Bray,
over
what every member has said.
I pretty much agree with most of the comments. I think the only specific comment that I wanted to pick up on before I make a couple of general comments was Councillor Boothby. I don't know what he was talking about any agreement. There's no agreement, as far as I'm aware. But the clear, welcome back to the council. I think it's the first council meeting you've been for over a year, so welcome back. Clearly, any planning application that is currently in the system now will be made. Determination will be made by planning committee in the usual way. And if it's approved by either by us or by appeal, then those numbers are come off the total as a scheme. So at this stage, nothing is going to be taken off. We are in a consultation draft. But what I would say to anybody out there, to all members and the public, is that during the consultation we're going to have to find another site to put back in, because this numbers game doesn't change. I jokingly said to my group in our pre-meeting before this, sometimes when you come to decisions to make decisions like this today, was the blood, sweat and tears of the election campaign and the grief that you get is worth doing, because you're coming into a meeting tonight to do what we have to do, because we are required to do it. We just know it's going to go down like a bucket of cold sick in quite a lot of our communities. But what is our choice? We don't have a choice. As Mark has said, and a number of members have made the point, we've got government after government, and this is not a political point, because it's the same with all governments, that are completely utterly out of touch with reality. They're demanding all these houses, they're not giving us the money to put in the infrastructure, and something at some point is going to go bang, and the public are going to get really, really fed up about it. But there is one final point I do wish to make, and I've got to say this because there's been this myth peddled throughout the time on this, both in the letters pages of the local paper by people who failed to get elected to this place, and also in Parliament by people. I should say no more about who that is. That, well, it's all the fault because we've not got. We're getting all this development because we've not got a local plan. This is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. Because we've not got a local. What having a local plan does is accelerates development. It doesn't block development. What having a local plan does is so anybody who's saying in Parliament and elsewhere that because we've not had a local plan, because we've had all this development, is just talking rubbish. And at that point, Mr. Mayor, I will shut up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bray. Right, the motion to approve this report has been moved by Councillor Bray and seconded by Councillor Bowles. So would all those members in favour of accepting the report, please raise your hands now. So would all those members in favour of accepting the report, please raise your hands now. Any members against? Any abstentions? So one abstention, the rest all approved. Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion is carried. One abstention, the rest all approved. Okay, so right, that brings us to the end of the business tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I close the meeting at 17:48. Thank you very much. The meeting at 17:48. Let you know when we're off. Thank you very much. Oh, all right. Dates for just before you all dash off, councillors, just dates for a future meeting. Just before you all dash off, councillors, just dates for a future meeting. I'll just find your diary again. Have you got them handy, Becky?
14th of October.
14th of October.
18th of November.
18th of November.
And
14th of October.
December?
9th of December, yes, that's it. So we got 3